Welcome to BJJ class, guys. I hope everybody had a good reading week and it wasn't too stressful. And let's get some jiu-jitsu in, let's get working out a little bit and get rid of that hard work that we've had to do on the papers and things like that. So we'll get warmed up first, guys. We'll get through some stretching today, get loosened up. We'll have a little bit of a lower intensity return to our training before some of our partner work this weekend. So hopefully we get to work on some guard retention work, because I want to go over that in this weekend's class. We're going to look at the solo drum movements required for the training on the weekend. So let's begin, guys. Find the space on the room. We're going to start off with our start jumps. Let's get warmed up a little bit. All right, let's begin with our start jumps. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go to our squats now, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Push-up position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Line your backs. Go for our cross chokes. So close the legs like we're in the clothesline. Sitting up to cross the arms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20. Put hands on the mat, go for our triangle chokes, lift the hips up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Feet onto the ground for our bridges. Lift the hips up nice and high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hip escapes. Take the hands down to the toes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Relax there, guys. Keep the head off the ground. We're going to bring our chin to our chest for our neck exercises. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looking left and right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ears to shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nice work there, guys. Now, we'll start off in a kneeling position here. We're just going to get our lower back warmed up a little bit. Let me just make a quick adjustment to this. Clear. Okay, so we're hands and knees on the ground here. We're just going to start to lower the belly towards the ground, looking forwards, and then tucking the chin to the chest, extending out the back from here. So we have our sad cat, happy cat from here. We'll go for about 10 of these, guys. Start to freestyle with it if you need to. We'll start to switch through the hips, extend one side or the other, pushing off the floor. Try and concentrate on your breathing here as well. We want an inhalation on the belly coming down, and then exhale on the way up. Good. We bring the knees a little bit closer now, hands a bit wider. We're just going to rotate the hips side to side from here. This should give you a nice little stretch in the obliques and the lats of the side of your body. Okay, come back to the knees. Take the hands off the floor here. Just get our neck moving a little bit. So we're just going to draw semicircles at the top. So we're doing chin to shoulder from each side. And at the bottom, looking left and right. And ears to shoulders. Now if we go for some resisted stretching now, so bring the ear towards the shoulder on one side, support the head, so we're pulling down on that side from here. Should we get a nice good stretch from the side of the neck like it's being pulled down your shoulder. And relax. Bring the head back to center. Ears to shoulder on the other side, hand on top. Play around with the angle from here as well. So if you want to bring your head back a little bit or the head forward, you should start to feel some stretches in some different areas. You might have some referral going down the body as well. So hold those positions. And we'll do the same at the top of the head. So chin to chest. I'm just going to interlock the fingers behind the back of the head from here. Good. If we go back to your hands, guys, just going to engage your toes with the floor. So we're just going to lift the knees off the mat. We're coming into that downward dog position from here. So I got my way through my shoulders into my hands. We're pedaling out the heels just to get these hamstrings engaged to begin with. If we bend the legs here, we're looking between the hands from this point. We're just going to walk the feet up towards the hands. Okay, so we get a nice hip width apart in our stance from here. You can have a slight bend in the knees as well if you need to. And then all we're going to do is forward fold. So we're taking the head down towards the shin. We can go hands to the mat, hands to the back of the calves, or we can just interlock wrists from here and let the head rest. Let's bring the hands up towards the top of the shins or a little bit higher onto the knees. Just going to straighten out the back from this point. Again, should be a nice little stretch going through the spine from here. If you want to extend one shoulder or the other, then you're moving to different sides of the back. And back into our forward fold. Now if we lift the toes up, so draw the toes backwards, you're going to hug underneath the toes from here. You can open up the feet a little bit wider. You're going to sit the hip down into position from here. So I've got a good squat, trying to keep my heels onto the ground and my hands in the center. So we're coming into a good prayer position from here. Open up the hips, bounce a little bit side to side. If you want to add a little bit more of a stretch, then we can go from a prayer position to fist, and that will open up the knees as well. So we can switch between that, going from hands together to knuckles connected, opening up the hip line. From here, we're going to bring the thumbs back towards the ears, so we're opening up that chest, then we're coming up nice and tall into a squat. Good. And then staying back down, going back to our forward fold. So hinge at the hips, hips move backwards, bringing the weight down, relaxing the fingertips towards the floor, palms on the mat, behind the calves, or connecting to the wrists or elbows. Let the weight dangle from here. You're going to start to feel your back start to loosen up a little bit. Everything will unwind. Let's go hands back to the shins. Straighten out the back. We're looking forward. And back into our forward fold. Curl the toes back under here, guys. Bring the hips down. Good. Now from here, we're going to walk the hands forward. So while we're in this position, walk the hands out into our push-up position, so into our plank. We're going to bring the weight over the wrists, lower ourselves down so the stomach hits, untuck the toes, and lift up from there. Shoulders are drawing away from the ears, hips are relaxed. We'll rotate from side to side. Again, keep working on your breathing from here, guys. We'll bring the chest back to the floor, tuck the toes back underneath. We're going to push up back to a push-up. From here, we'll bring the weight back to the heels and back into our downward dog. Now, if we center the weight in towards the left foot, we're going to point the toes to the right foot and lift it up towards the ceiling. We're just going to guide this foot all the way through to step in between my hands. Up. Once you're into our forward lunge, drop that knee towards the ground from here. So relax. First thing we're going to do is just lean forward, take the hands off the mat, and the hips coming forward. So you can untuck the toes from here as well if you want to increase the stretch. You post the hand towards the mat to lean further forward, just to open up that left hip. Now, if we post the left fingertips onto the ground, we're going to be reaching back, so I'm bending my foot back from here. We're grabbing onto the toes, bringing the heel back towards the butt. Should be working into a nice quad stretch in the front of the leg. Now we're going to open up the shoulder. We're looking up towards the ceiling from here, so I'm open all the way up, and this should work into that front hip. Good. Relax the foot back towards the floor there, guys. Engage the toes. We'll lift the knee up from there. Okay. We're going to keep that hand posting. I'm just going to rotate through the chest now, so my weight's into my left hand. Fingertips are raising up towards the ceiling. And bring the hand back down. Step the foot back. Get a generous bend in the legs. And put the weight through the palms. So sinking the weight back into the heels here. If you want to pedal it out to stretch out those hamstrings. We're going to go on the other side. So sink the weight in towards the right foot. We point the left toe, stretching straight up towards the ceiling. We're going to step that foot right in between the hands. Drop the knee towards the ground, untuck the toes. Hips come forward from here, so chest is up, and I'm leaning into that front leg. Just loosen up that front hip from here. We're going to post the right hand towards the floor, bending the left toes towards the butt, and reaching back to grab a hold from there. We're keeping the hips pointing forward, so this should be a nice quad stretch. Now open up through the chest, so looking up towards the ceiling. Hips should be starting to get engaged from this position. And relax, lower the foot back towards the ground. We're going to post the hands onto the mat, tuck the feet back under, lift the knee from here. So we're in a good position from there. We're going to post that hand to the ground and then open up the second hand, pointing up towards the ceiling. Open up the chest. Let's bring that palm back towards the floor. Walk the feet back, and then again, transfer the weight towards the heels. Get the shoulders in line with the wrists. Now, we take small steps towards the top of the mat. The feet hip width apart again. We're going to finish off with a forward fold from here. So if you need to, bend the legs, just sink the weight forwards. Hands onto the shins, flat back. And back to our forward fold. Curl the toes under, grab underneath, sink the weight down from here. Palms into the center, open up the hips. You want to go knuckles to knuckles to open up the hips even further. Then you can transition between those two. And then we're going fingertips, thumbs next to the ears, open up the shoulders from here, and stand up from that point. Nice. Good work, guys. Give the legs a shake. We'll drop down towards the floor. Here's just some more stretches from these positions here. So we'll take a seat, just open up the hips. So toes are engaged up towards the ceiling, making sure my legs are nice and strong here. Just going to walk the hands forward first. Try and keep the toes engaged here, so rather than letting them relax, it's really going to increase that stretch the more we start to drive the bend to the knees towards the floor. So straighten the legs out and lean forwards. Okay, come back up straight. We'll move down towards one leg, so rotate the hip, leaning down towards that leg, catching onto the toes if we can. If not, towards the shin. We're just trying to bring the chest over the top of the knee line. Now we're just past the elbow towards the inside here. It's a bit of a counter stretch. We're going to reach with the left hand now. So we're going over the top. Trying to reach towards that toe if we can. So up on the inside of the knee. Open up that chest, look up towards the ceiling. So you're looking underneath your armpit. And circle that back out to a good position from here. Again, engage those toes, toes pointing towards the ceiling. We're going to switch your hips towards the other side, lean it down, stretch it onto the left side from here. I always tend to grip onto the side of the foot just to keep those toes drawing back towards me. And then we go nose to knee if we can. Pass the elbow towards the inside here. When we get the elbow towards the ground, other arm's going to stretch through. So then reaching towards that toe. We're going to open that elbow, looking underneath the armpit up towards the ceiling. And spiral back out to position. We'll come back to leaning forwards here. So our hands going to walk back out. See if we're feeling any more flexible in this position. So hopefully by now we can get a little bit further, whether it's the elbows and forearms to the ground. Maybe it's just going from here to here. Whatever you want to do just to make sure we can see some improvement. Good. Bring the feet together so both legs are pointing forward from here. We're going to start off by making sure the back's nice and straight. We're going to practice this with some dynamic motion. So we're going hands up first, nice and tall. My hands are going to reach down towards the toes, and I bring them back up into this straight line from here. So we're going 10 times here. Reach, arms up, straight back. 2. You're halfway. Keep those toes flexed, drawing back towards the shins. 2 more. And last one, we're going to hold. So come down. Again, trying not to force anything in this position, guys. If we're just here, hands on the shins, that's fine. We're trying to make sure we're bending from that hip line, chest coming forward. And relax. Nice. Now bring the foot behind here, guys. We're just going to stretch out your quad. So while we've got this position here, we've already stretched leaning forwards. So in this position, I'm just drop back towards my elbow. So drop. If we can get the shoulder towards the ground, then great. My hips and quads are a little bit tight in this position, but we're aiming to try to get shoulder to the floor and right shoulder for a good stretch. And come out of that there, guys. Extend out the other side. So bend the heel back, toes are engaged. We're leaning back towards the elbow first. We're going to try and get down onto that shoulder, and then ultimately try and bring the other shoulder towards the ground. And back up. Nice. Now, if we bend the knees here, guys, just going to bring the heels back. We're just going to open up the hips from side to side here. So come up into position, bringing the feet flat towards the ground, and opening back up towards the other side. Just get these hips to loosen up with some motion. Good. Okay. Bring the feet out straight again, guys. We're just going to bring your foot on top of the knee. We're going to start stretching these positions here. Now we're getting into a little bit more Jiu-Jitsu specific stretching. It's really good for a lot of your attacks, guard retention in these positions here, where we support the knee line, but we're bringing the foot back towards the face. So we start off here just with the foot rested, and then put pressure onto the knee, trying to get that towards the ground. Now, the next thing we're going to do from here is just reach the arms inside. So we're going arm underneath, hugging the foot towards us. So both arms underneath, trying to keep a tall chest from here, bringing the shin back towards the chest. Now we're going to hook the forearm underneath in the sole of the foot from there. My other arm is going to hook underneath the knee line, so I'm supported. Then I connect my hands together. So we're holding this position. And just like we're cuddling a baby from here, we're just moving side to side. Just get those hips loosened up. Again, this is perfect for any of your guard retention drills, trying to stop somebody from passing your legs. We need to be able to recover these feet back to the inside. Also works really well for moving into things like rubber guard and setting up on platters or burger platters, depending on your flexibility. Okay, so relax that leg there, guys. We'll change sides now, so straighten that leg out. Bring the other foot up on top of the thigh. Keep the toes engaged while we're doing this here, guys. And then we're pressing down into this knee. We go palm, elbow, just opening up that hip. here, we're pummeling the arm underneath. So I'm going elbow deep, trying to keep the chest up. So if we're leaning forwards, try and straighten that back up from here. Now let's get the hook of the elbow in the sole of the foot. Support underneath the knee line. Locking an S grip from here. Again, tall chest. And then rotation of the hip. Good. And relax the leg like this. Nice. We'll use this to spin to our front. So going down towards the belly again. Hands next to the chest. Lift up again, just get back into this lower back. Rotate through the hips. Open up the spine. And we'll push the weight back onto the heels, sit back, arms extended out for our final stretch. Good. And relax there, guys. Take a water break, grab yourself a drink, and then we'll get started with some of our jiu-jitsu specific movements for today. So we'll get loosened up a little bit, moving around. So hopefully now we should be feeling a little bit better, warmed up a little bit. We've had a full week off. We're back to jiu-jitsu mode. So, as I said at the beginning, we're going to try and work into some of our guard retention drills. So we practiced this recently with some of our inversions. So we're going to look at some of that motion by itself, and then how that plays in with turning towards the turtle position. So this weekend, we're going to look at 3 layers of guard retention. So our first layer is pummeling with the feet. So when somebody is passing my legs, but using my feet to try to bring them back and circle them back in that position. The second layer is if I can no longer use my lower body, then I need to use my upper body to retain guard. So that's where you turn towards single legs, use that to sit back to guard, or stand up and begin to wrestle with the person. But that requires an underhook, okay? If I can't underhook, then I have to turn away and we go to turtle, which is stage 3 of your guard retention, which is sort of the latest stage where if we go much further than that, then we're talking about back defense. But stage 3 of your back escapes are going to be from, stage 3 of your guard retention is going to be turning to turtle and working your guard recovery from there. So essentially laying on my back, somebody passes around my legs, I turn away, and I use that to roll back to guard as well. So we're looking at the movements that are required for that, because a lot of times people are comfortable just rolling side to side, but we're going to need to transfer the weight into the hips to be able to move somebody. Imagine if somebody's laying heavy on top of my hips. I need to create some destabilization before my guard recovery. So I don't just want to be circling and coming back from here, which is fairly simple to do. So we'll start off with stage 1, of course, look at some leg pummeling, some guard retention motion from there. So we start on your back, guys. We're just going to draw circles with the feet 20 times. So we'll circle these legs out from here. And back to the inside. The more we can try and keep these knees up towards the chest, the better our guard retention is going to be. Good, and feet to knees from here. Good, that's what I best. Okay, so our first motion, keeping the knees up towards the chest. One of the worst things to do when we're trying to play guard is reach with your legs. So if I'm trying to get control of somebody, I reach with my hands, and then once I have contact, then my legs start to engage, whether it's with hooks or inside hooks to go to single leg X. So the first thing I need is some form of engagement with my upper body before I can begin reaching with my lower body. If I start reaching with the lower body too soon, I expose my legs and somebody starts passing around. So imagine your guard is sort of like this circumference, essentially like a force field. Okay? My legs can follow in these positions, circling around my partner, right? So the moment I start reaching forward, I lose that ability to follow this direction. That's where I have to start to turn towards people. So, starting off in our seated position from here, one thing that happens quite a lot is your partner trying to lift your ankles from this point. So if I was in position, my partner were able to pick my ankles up, they put my back onto the ground, and then I have to start using my legs from here. So first thing I'm going to look at is when somebody goes to lift the ankles, we sink the weight back into the hands, and then we're just going to pummel our legs out. So I bring the knees to the chest, I circle my legs out, and I bring my feet back. Okay? Super simple drill, but it blocks that initial motion of somebody trying to put you back onto the ground. So as soon as they come to reach for the ankles, we go palms onto the floor. That takes the weight out of the feet, and then we circle the feet free. So out wide, back together, and then my hips and my shoulders are back over in line with my ankle. Again, this works if they just have control over one leg. We post, circle one leg or the other, or in most cases, they reach for both ankles, open, and back. 2, 3, 4, 5. Way to the top. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nice. Now, our next motion, as we're recovering from here, we're going to fall towards the hip. So I'm putting my forearm onto the ground from here. We're just going to circle this leg. So draw a circle with the top leg, step on the ground with the bottom leg, hip escape, and recover back to our seated position. Okay, so we're using the bottom foot to recover, the top leg to pummel. And again, same sort of pummeling that we do at our upper body position, where I'm trying to get the underhook. It's the same concept with my lower body. If somebody has control over the leg, we either pummel it inside to push, or we pummel outside to push away. That gives them enough space when you push away to recover this leg to come back to guard, or essentially step on the ground to create more space and come back to our position. So from our butterfly from here, I'm keeping my elbows connected to my knees. I'm dropping down towards my side. We're circling this leg here. So circle, step on the floor, hip escape away, and back into position from here. Knee to the side, frame onto the ground, elbows still on the inside of the knee, pummel the leg to the inside, step onto the floor, hip escape, reset. Now, it will feel a little bit strange to sort of hip escape from that bottom leg, so we're going to get used to moving from that point. So we'll drop to the shoulder now. So while we're in guard, we'll drop to our backs and we'll turn towards the side again. Same drill from here. This time we're going to hip escape with this bottom leg first. Sometimes you might not have the ability to pummel the leg inside. Sometimes you will need to use a knee shield. But to help that out, we'll just step on the floor with the bottom leg, hip escape, circle the leg over the top. Once I circle the leg, I'm going to step on the floor in between and then change the weight. So rather than playing guard on my left shoulder, we're going to come back to the right shoulder. Draw back, come back towards the other side from here. Okay? Once we're here, step on the floor with the bottom leg, hip escape, draw the circle, step onto the mat, withdraw the bottom leg to change sides. And again, my elbow is connected to my knee from here. That's stopping my knees from getting crossed together for my partner to pass behind my legs. So my elbow's on the inside of this knee. Okay? We hip escape, create the distance, circle, step onto the mat, withdraw the bottom leg. Now, our next motion is going to be stiff arms. So if I can't pummel my legs in time, then sometimes I'm going to have certain grips, you see? So I might have a sleeve grip, might have a collar grip, or sometimes in no-gi would be sort of cupping onto the back of the elbow to push forward. So from here, I'm going to put my back onto the ground. I come up, straighten out my right arm. This hand could be pushing the person away. And this allows me to scoop my hips back to recenter the position. My back gets put onto the ground. I turn up onto the forearm, posting up to the hand, extending this arm out, pushing the person away, allowing me to create enough space to recover my hips back to a neutral position. Sometimes you might have to come all the way up to standing, where I come up, maintaining that grip throughout. Other times, as I extend, this might allow me to withdraw this bottom knee, circle that back to guard, or to move my whole hip back. So a few different variations onto the stiff arm. Lie back, come up to the hand, extend this arm out, create some distance, or while I'm here, withdraw the top knee, so I can bring this knee back, circle, and come back into position, or all the way up to standing. So come up, withdraw, and then come up from here. Again, you'll tend to go through progressions when it's coming up to standing. You might come up to a knee first, because that might give you enough space to sit back to guard, and then you can stand from the knee as well. So back to the mat, extend out, withdraw the top knee, circle that, and back. This works really well when you get into a position where your knees are being pinned together. So if somebody has more of a smothering guard pass style, like a Khabib Nurmagomedov, where they pin your knees together, this is where we frame on the shoulders to make sure your palm doesn't come up any higher on your body. We hip escape as much as we can, and then we recover the top leg. Circle, and we're back to guard. Okay, so that's the idea of freeing the top knee. Most cases, we'll be able to just scoot back and create distance. Sometimes we'll have to free the top knee. We will look at those examples later on in the classes this weekend. So that's the idea of sort of reverse pummeling. So a lot of times when somebody has control of my leg, I'm going to have to circle my leg in back to a good position, or I circle under to push away. You see, with my legs pinned, then we circle out to open the hips back up again. Constantly looking for this sort of wide guard position. Now, stage 2 of that guard retention is turning towards the person. That's going to be in case of coming up to single legs. So, if I'm on my back and the person comes towards me, the first thing I want to do is look at underhooking. So I can't get my legs back inside. They're too far up towards my upper body. So I underhook, come out towards the elbow. I'm going to withdraw my bottom leg. So instead of me coming forward now, I'm going to take my foot underneath the other one to come up towards my knees. From my knees, now I can post my hands for me to sit back to guard. So I post, lift the leg, and slide back underneath, so I'm back into a seated guard. Again, from that position, we're essentially in more of a front headlock situation. So I might need to strip grips for my neck, deal with the risk of the guillotine. I could sit through potentially. So we could always go, for instance, if I turn to this side, I underhook, come up to the elbow, withdraw the bottom leg, come up to the knees, and then we might post up, and instead of sliding forwards, we can sit through to come around towards the back as well. So we're in our seated guard, partner passes around the legs. I can't get my legs in anymore, so I underhook, posting up towards the elbow. We recover the bottom leg, squaring up to the knees. If I want to wrestle, I post and slide forward onto the knee, and then cut the corner, turning around so I get back to waist control. If I'm more of a guard player, then I use this motion here to step and slide forward to bring my hips back underneath my partner to continue playing guard. Now, in a competition setting, it's much more advantageous to sit back to guard, because if I'm able to score a sweep from that position, then I will score points. So I'll get 2 points for a sweep. If I come up and, for instance, I finish a single leg, or I sit through and take my partner's back, I don't get any points for that maneuver because it's forced off of a defensive position. So because my partner's past my guard, if I then turtle up and double leg him, I don't get 2 points. But if I just double leg him from my guard, then I will score 2. So because it's forced into that movement from countering his initial attack, I don't get points. So it's more advantageous in a competition setting to sit to guard and then set up your sweeps later. So think about that if we do ever come to competing again. You're at benefit by pulling guard. Okay, guys? So, person passes around the legs, underhook, square up, step, slide back to guard. Comes around the legs, up onto the elbow, underhook. And when we're underhooking the waist here, draw the shoulder up. I'm going to connect it up from here, like I'm Floyd Mayweather. Shoulder roll in the punch, block. Withdraw the bottom leg, post up. We can sit through if we need to, or use it to slide back to guard. Follow the hips, underhook, square up, step, sit back to position from here. Good. And passes up to the elbow, underhook, withdraw the bottom leg, post the leg, sit through, maybe, or slide back to guard. Now, 2, guard retention, level 3, now we have to turn away. So if I can no longer underhook, I can't turn towards my partner. It's more than likely because they have won the underhook battle, which means they're going to pin my shoulders to the ground. So in that case, I have to turn away. Then turn it towards a turtle. I need to make sure that I'm safe. So one example is, one of the most common attacks is when I turn towards the turtle position, I expose my back by lifting the hip. So as I turn here, there will always be this space here for your palm to slide in. So as I'm turning, I'm not going to pull it towards my forearm to turtle up here. I'm going to try and stay on my shoulder. So I want my knees and elbows connected together when I twist. I want to try to reduce this space as much as possible to prevent the initial hook. And then if you notice, I keep my knee off the ground. So again, I'm not sinking the weight back to here. As I come up, I'm on my shoulder. My toes are pressing towards the ground. I extend up, straightening both legs. And then I walk my foot back to recover my guard. So the person passes around my leg, so I follow. I turn all the way to the other side, to my shoulder, knee, and toes. I drive off of my toes, lifting the knees. This is using my hips to push my partner away, and then I circle my leg back to guard. So if I face the other side, I'm blocking the guard pass. They underhook, hit my shoulder, so I turn away. As I turn, my shoulder hits the ground. I straighten both legs and circle my feet back. Now, when you are recovering guard from here, we're trying to look up towards the ceiling, and you want to make sure your foot passes your head. So we get to here first. Both legs, either side of my head. Now back to guard, and I successfully recovered. If my hips dropped before my leg passes over my head, then I'll probably be brought back into the side control, which you'll understand a little bit later on this weekend when we have somebody to do it to us. But essentially, when I'm turning away, I don't want to do this. I let my hips drop because my partner will pin me back into the side control. So as I'm returning back to guard, bring your feet either side of your head and then open the legs to close your guard again. He passes, I turn away, and I roll back to guard. Pass, turn away, come up to the shoulder and knee, drive, and back to guard again. Next. Our next motion is returning the hip. So The turtle position works on a diagonal plane. It's your near side shoulder or your far side hip that you'll use to recover guard. So when I turn away, if I can't roll over the shoulder, then I sit to this hip. Coming back into my guard again. Now, you might sit to the hip to give you space to pommel for your underhook, which we can then, obviously, if I go from this point, I turn away to turtle, I sit to my hip, I use that to find the underhook, and then we begin wrestling again. You see? Sit through, come towards the waist, and then we start moving into different positions. So sitting to the hip just allows me to return back to level 2 of our guard retention, because now I've won the underhook back. And then I can begin working to the single leg, pulling back to half guard, or sitting through and working wrestling exchanges. Okay, guys? So we're in guard. Partner's passing around towards the side. I turn to the other. I sit straight to the hip. Knees are connected. And back to butterfly guard. Partner's passing. Turn to the other side. Sit to the hip. Forearm on the ground. Underhook. See, I use that to turn up towards the knees and slide back in with a good underhook. Okay, this will all hopefully make sense on the weekend. Back of the mat, follow, twist, sit, butterfly guard achieved. Partner's passing, turn away, sit straight to the far hip, underhook. Frame, square the leg underneath, turn to look towards the knees. Okay, lift, circle, first to start the single leg, or slide back to guard. Good. Follow to the side, turn, sit, butterfly guard achieved. Back on the mat. Lock, twist, sit. Good. Now, if we team these two positions together, so as I turn towards the turtle, I turn and I sit my hip. If my partner top spins towards the other side, then I roll straight over my shoulder from this position. So I'm going to drive back over the left shoulder and use that to open up to come back to my guard. So my partner passes, I turn away, coming towards the turtle, sit to my hip. I immediately roll over the shoulder to put him back inside of my legs. Passes guard, turn away, sit in the hip, try to recover, he spins around my head, roll, boom, back to guard again. Turn, sit, roll. So as we're sitting the hip back to butterfly guard, we're reinitiating our grounding roll to return back to our hips. Nice, Alex. Good job. Lovely. Okay, so our next motion is the difference between turtling and so we turtle when your partner doesn't have any contact. So if my partner hasn't got a good grip on me yet, then I can try and turtle away and use the scramble to my advantage. The issue becomes when my partner has control over me, then I need to, if I turn to turtle, then I'm exposing myself by lifting the hip and giving away the hooks for the lower body control, so my partner can put his hooks in. So instead of turtling, what I will do is square up the hips. So if my partner passes my guard, I come up to a seated position here, but I'm not going to lift the hip to give the hook. What I'm going to do instead is square up the hips to a seated position. So now you have your partner behind you from here. See? From this point, he's either going to go to a seatbelt grip, see, or double grips around the waist. If he grabs around my waist, I lock onto his own wrists, and then I grandly roll through. So I'm going to roll over my shoulder, coming back, and then using this to switch my hips to side control. So I slide into guard, partner passes round, I come up. He's got too much weight onto me, so I square up the hips, elbows and knees connected. I lock in on his waist, so as though I'm putting a seatbelt on from here. I lock into the position. I'm going to grandly roll, so I roll over the shoulders. When I get to here, my heels are going to touch the ground. I'm going to switch my hips back to my knees. So land back on the knees, back into position again. So pass, up to the elbow, square up, lock, roll, flip. Come back to the knees each time, flipping back to the knees. Sit to guard, he's passing, up to the elbow. He has contact, square up. He's grabbed around your waist, lock his wrists in place, grab me roll, step off the toes to invert. Push up, switch the weight back to the knees. Come up, lock in the waist, engage the toes, and switch back to the knees. You'll notice a common pattern here, guys, of switching the hips and refacing back towards the knees each time. So when we're in a disadvantageous position for us, we need to be trying to land back in a neutral position, get your hips on the ground. So either we're coming back to guard or just simply landing on top. And that's the basis of this motion here, where I tuck, roll, and switch to land back up onto my knees, refacing the person, getting back under control with them. Okay, guys? So what we've looked at today are the basic movements required for our class this weekend. So we're going to be looking at some guard retention, the 3 layers of guard retention, and looking at what to do when you can no longer turn to turtle. You see, instead of us giving up the back control, we just accept the upper body control of the seatbelt or the waist lock, and then we start to defend from either of those positions. So hopefully by this weekend, this will make a lot more sense. Everyone will have a good understanding of how these movements come into action with a person, and then we can continue working them next weekend, and then again, start to adapt some of our movements for the following class. Okay, guys, so thank you for being here today for our training. I hope you were able to learn something new. Obviously, a little bit of a lower intensity class to get you guys back into moving around on the floor again. So good work, everybody, and I appreciate your time today.